Space, the final frontier. Something maiden voyage of the 5-year with the nerds. I should know. I love Star Wars. Come on. Hey, comment below. Kirk, Picard, Cisco, or Archer? Or would it be Michael? Is it Michael Berman? The new one from the... Let's not go there. Hey, some nerdy space kind of people that talk about strings all day. Quantum mechanical people? I don't know, they work on cars. I don't know what they do. They thought, hey, overdrives and distortions work with germanium, which is a thing, and silicone, which is another kind of thing, to drive and push and little itsy-bitsy things you put in pedals. I don't know electronics or physics. I sucked at physics. Was more of a biology kind of a guy, if you know what I mean. So they thought, hey, let's distort carbon. And they developed the Nanolog device, which is a carbon thing. So we're talking about carbon distortion, which is more dynamic, a little bit less distorty, and we're going to look at it. In this C4, because it explodies. Now I got that. I just got that C4. Get it, boom. Distortion by Nanolog Audio Inc. from Canada. Clocks in at a bit over $200. I don't know if that's Canadian or US. I already talked to them and talked about the wobbly knobs. You see how the knob wobbles back and forth? That's not great because there's a washer and nut missing underneath. So it's pretty much just a hole in the chassis, and the pot is soldered to the PCB, comes through the hole, but nothing secures it. If I kick that by accident with my shoe on a pedal board, it might break off. It might break off the PCB, which we don't want. So they're already working on that for the next batch, I think. And what do we have here? We have a silicone, so they still have that clippy thing in there. An N2, they also have an N1 Nanolog device, but that has less gain. We're talking about distortion, so less gain is not what we want. And then open, which apparently doesn't go through any clipping stage, and that's just loud. I don't quite know what that does, but we'll figure it out. These have notches in the middle, which is nice, so we know exactly where they are. Also notch in the middle. These scratch on the chassis a bit. They really have to work on their knob game. Those knob noobs. I don't know, I'm trying to be nerdy. On the overdrive, it was a passive EQ. Here, it was only cut. Here, I think it's an active EQ. Oh, lordy, this sweater is warm. I will have to get rid of the space cats. So, metal! That's a shirt you can buy, links below. Today with my beautiful FGN Expert Flame, clocks in at $2,200. Oh my God, look at this guitar! It's so pretty. Satin neck. Maple binding, rounded fresh edges. It has rounded fresh edges. Should we even go to the neck pickup? Let's start right in the back, he said to her. I'm going into the Tone King, Sky King, which is wired up to my system, and then comes back into its own speaker, which means any amp you will hear through the aux with a 412 creamback loaded cab, and also mixed in is this MTP 440 in front of the Tone King speaker. So we're mixing those two, and we're of course going to go through a whole le bunch, as they say in France, of amps. That's a good amp. Let's start with a gain here on silicone. Let's match the volume. This is not a subtle pedal. It says distortion, and it means it. Oh. but not bad bitey, kind of good bitey. It's definitely an aggressive sound. That'll cut through any mix. Let's crank up the gain here. Way too much bass. If this pedal has one thing, it is gain up the frickin' wazoo. Look up what a wazoo is. I'm not even at half gain. That's a little bit too much gain, Nanolog people. Come on, who needs that much gain? Going over to N, which is Le Carbone. I like that more. Nicely defined there. A little bit too bitey there. Not very sustainy there. Okay, what is open? I don't understand what open means. It's cool, that's what that is. So let's find a setting that we pump into all the amps. Revv Dynamis. This is clean. They are not great buddies. Because it's very nice and open right there. And it kind of closes and muddies. Now we're talking. Trying to play looking at the screen over there, and that doesn't work. I kind of have to look at my fingers sometimes. Not bad when you use the treble knob. Moving on to the Vox AC30. That's a classic. That's what it sounds like. You can adjust quite a bit. Nice. It does sound different though. You get a very different sound in the AC30 than you would get in the Tone King or the Dynamis. Interesting. Which pretty much means test it with your gear. Moving on to the Diesel Powell, which is twinish and sounds like so. Has quite a bit of high end. Let's see what happens. Interesting. I really like the N2 setting with less gain, but not for any kind of an actual more modern metal tone. I see it as a distortion, but maybe not a metal distortion, which, well, it doesn't have to be. Because that's awesome for like a classic distortion tone. But this... In this case, with less gain, if you give it more gain, it gets a little bit mushy. You can get some great tones out of this. Different ones with every amp. So, moving on choose something very different, a non-master volume amp by Laney, the Tony Iommi LA30BL Black Country Customs. I'm saying a lot of words. Yeah, Laney doesn't quite know how to market this. Come on. Is it Laney's a Black Country Customs? Is it the Tony Iommi amp? But that doesn't say it on it. And is it the LA30BL? It doesn't even say that on it. Very confusing. But this is the sound by itself. That is great. Killer on open. Completely different mids. It kind of turns into a different pedal on every amp. Moving on to the Dirty Shirley by Friedman, which I have now on the cleanest setting. Now it's very woolly again. Everything's different. Liked it on the Laney more. Moving on to the Orange Rocker Reverb 50. Very different amp. This has nothing to do with the setting we just had on the Dirty Shirley. This is ridiculous. Super fizzly, way too much distortion now. Very strange. There we go. Do it open. Sorry, not happening on the Orange at all. Friedman small box. Without it, jump back to the Tone King, which is apparently all bass. Woo, this is difficult. Blow it up. Okay, it's chord C4, Leslie. There you go. My 2 cents. I got some killer tones. Tones with the Z. In the Dietzel, which is actually usually very bright, it sounded phenomenal. I think in the Dirty Shirley, nice. In the Orange, in the small box, which is a plexi type amp, not so much. In the Orange, I would say it's a no-go. It sounded really good in that non-master volume Laney 30-watt amp. So there is some great tones you can get out of this Nanolog device, carbon clippy thing. But it did behave very differently in every amp, which means if you liked some of the sounds you heard, and you like the whole idea of supporting a company that is pushing the boundaries, as they say, you need to know what amp you have. You need to make sure that you can return it if you don't like it, because it will be different with your gear. I tried to give you a wide range of sounds. I'm not going to say it sounds phenomenal, because it did sound really phenomenal in some amps. It sounded pretty damn not so phenomenal in others. So it is highly dependent on your gear. It has probably a little bit too much gain. You know, having a wider range to set up, I really didn't want to go further than half here. The EQ is very effective, and you need it to adjust to your amp. The open is a cool setting. Why go to silicone? Other people do that. I think the strength of this is not doing the silicone. The strength of it is be on the N, be on the carbon team, and venture into new territory. Check out their website, link below. Thanks for supporting me on Patreon, those of you who do. If you don't, please do. It really helps to make these videos. And if you think these videos are easy to make, I made a whole bunch of videos where you see what it takes to make these videos. We have 2 people employed here. I have to live with this. I do have to live with it, but I have to live off it. Leslie has to live off it. All the animals do. So if you can, please support us. And we're talking about animals. Let's put them at the end. How about that? Yeah, for today, we'll have some animals at the end. Bye-bye.